Welcome to the Brett Davis Success Show with your host, Brett Davis, and special guest, Beverly Hills plastic surgeon, Dr. Jon Perlman. Also voted Best Plastic Surgeon in Beverly Hills from Best of Los Angeles.
Hi everybody, this is Brett Davis with the Brett Davis Success Hour this morning. Hope everybody's doing great. Today I'm very honored to finally get an opportunity to interview somebody that I've admired for a while, and Dr. Jon Perlman. Nice to see you, Jon.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate your coming up today. It's a pleasure and a privilege for me to be on your show.
Well, it's a privilege to have you and finally get to talk to you about some of the things that you're doing to change people's lives.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to answer any of the questions you might have.
Where do you originate from? What state?
You know, I've been in California for a long time, but I'm basically an East Coast guy. I was born in New York, in the suburbs of New York City, first in Brooklyn, which years ago I wouldn't admit to, but now it's kind of a hip place. And when I was about 6, we moved out to the suburbs, to the Rockaway Park area, a place called Bell Harbor, right by the beach.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it was a lovely area to grow up, and I had a very nice family situation, loving parents. I was an only child. My only disappointment was I never got that pet dog that I wanted, but I made up for that later in life. But it was a lovely residential community to grow up in. From there, of course, I went to college in Pennsylvania.
So when you went to college, when did you start to realize that you wanted to be a doctor?
It's interesting, as I applied to college, I had this general sense of I want to be either a scientist, an engineer, or a physician. Mm-hmm. I probably couldn't define the three of them other than a physician. And just started taking courses that would include the science curricula for pre-med. And very gradually just realized I was going to probably apply to medical school. There was never a sit-down moment where I had to make a tough decision. So I applied to medical colleges. I was fortunate enough to get into a large number of them. Ended up going to Cornell University Medical College in New York City. So I never had a difficult choice to make. It was always a smooth transition, step by step, and one that's been very satisfying and enjoyable for me as a career.
So you wanted to be a doctor. When was it did you realize that you wanted to go into plastic surgery?
Now that took a little while. I was in medical school thinking of becoming possibly a cardiologist.
Wow.
Possibly a surgeon. Generally speaking, I always liked working with my hands on radios and cars and other things, so it seemed to be a natural conclusion to get into a field where I would be working with my hands and seeing the results of my work. When I entered general surgical residency, which was in Boston at the Massachusetts General Hospital, I was first enamored of brain surgery, and then it was heart surgery. And then I kind of wised up and I said, I'll bet when I'm an older man of 40, I'll probably not want to be called at 11 o'clock at night for somebody who was stabbed in the chest or had a gunshot wound. So let's become a little more practical. And I happened to really enjoy a rotation I had on plastic surgery. It was more reconstruction. It wasn't cosmetic surgery at all. We didn't see much of that in my residency. And I just decided it was a procedure that allowed me to operate on different parts of the body, see the results of my work, and was very satisfying technically. So that led me to apply to a plastic surgical residency and brought me to Los Angeles to UCLA Medical Center.
You had no idea you were ever coming to Los Angeles?
I had no idea, and in fact, once I got here, the one thing I knew I had no interest in becoming was, ironically, a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon. That just wasn't in the cards for me. I had no interest in that. And here I am sitting here in Beverly Hills 35 years later.
You've made a huge impact.
Well, I hope so. I hope it's a positive impact. It's certainly been a pleasure for me, and there is really gratification in having satisfied, happy patients who you've made feel better about themselves. And there's no question, plastic surgery is not for everyone, but for a lot of people it does make a big, if not very big difference in self-confidence and a good feeling about themselves. So I'm pleased.
So what is it about plastic surgery and helping people transform physically and mentally, and of course probably spiritually, that you really love about your job? I mean, there's probably something that really resonates with you that gets you out of bed every day. And
if you have a positive outlook about it, you're good, you're competent, you have experience, every day is an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And very often you don't know what's going to come to you on a daily basis. So I wake up and I go, today's going to be a really good day. Something good's going to happen. And I think having a positive attitude helps. But when you see patients, and I'm sure all doctors in my field and dentists and physicians in other specialties would say the same thing. When you see somebody come back or somebody emails you and go, you did my injections or my surgery or whatever, and it's perfect. I'm so happy with what you did. It's a great source of satisfaction. You're walking on a cloud. You may have other issues to deal with, but if you're feeling like your patients appreciate you and you've done some good for them, what could be more satisfying?
Sure. What is the one thing about plastic surgery that you think makes a difference in people's lives? What kind of transformation stories can you think of? I'm sure there's a lot of them.
Well, there are a lot of them, and plastic surgery relates to one's identity. Now, for some people, they don't care how they look, and I endorse that. If you've got a bump on your nose and it doesn't bother you and you don't want to fix it, God bless you, that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But for others, they grow up with an amplified sense of the importance of the bump on their nose, or the sagging of their face, or the drooping of their breasts after having pregnancies, etc. And so some people just can't feel good about themselves, and I think it's human nature to amplify your self-criticism. So you may have a beautiful face, but a relaxed stomach from pregnancy, and you focus on that. They don't equalize. It's the problem that seems to come to mind. So sometimes making even a small improvement, maybe an example is somebody who works out 5 days a week and they just can't get rid of a little band of fat around their waist. And you could look at that and go, what's the big deal? Who needs that?
I noticed you looked at me when you said that.
Not true. You're a bigger guy than I am. I wouldn't say that. Funny. But sometimes, and I found from experience, a small change in somebody who's worked out and watched their diet and they just can't get rid of that problem area makes them as happy as somebody who has a dramatic transformation, a profound transformation. So I think we have to respect the individual's sense of self-identity and importance and how things bother them and offer them appropriate treatment. And the results are often very satisfying. Not everybody needs it, not everybody wants it, but we tend to be very critical of ourselves. We don't look at the fact that we're tall and slim. We might look at the fact that we've got bags under our eyes, and that ruins part of your day. Now, it can be pathologic. We don't want to deal with people with body dysmorphic disorder because they will not be helped by plastic surgery. So I watch very carefully for somebody who has a long list of self-criticisms, because those people we know from experience are not going to be improved as a result of plastic surgery. They need therapy. But I don't see that many of those type of people. And most of the people are very satisfied and feel better about themselves, and it makes me feel good.
So what do you attribute that to? How you get that type of clientele base? Because I'm sure not everybody does.
Well, it's interesting. I think you have to be selective, and I'd rather not operate on somebody if I'm uncertain as to their likelihood of being satisfied.
So you screen a little bit.
You have to screen a lot, and you get a sense that somebody's. It's tricky sometimes. We've learned, and it's commonly known, that sometimes a patient will come in and will go, "Oh, I've heard about you. Your reputation is fantastic. I know I'm going to be thrilled with what you're doing. You're so good at what you do." Those are people who are setting you up, and you have to be cautious because they may be expecting too much. They may not be listening to what reasonable expectations are for them, and they may be unhappy in the long term. But somebody who's expecting improvement, they trust you, they don't have unrealistic expectations, that's the golden patient, and that's the type of patient I want in my life, in my practice. In my practice, I've never done advertising. I mean, we all do promotion now on the internet, etc.
Right.
But my practice is aimed at selecting, quote, normal people who have reasonable expectations and will likely be very satisfied from their treatment or their procedure. And that's important to me because I need to go home and sleep well at night.
Totally understand. So you were nominated the last 3 years. Was it the last 3 years?
Yes.
Top plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's an award that I was very grateful to receive as one of the top Los Angeles and Beverly Hills plastic
Los
surgeons.
Angeles
I think
also.
it's actually Beverly Hills plastic surgeons.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I take that with humility, but do appreciate it and very pleased.
That's great. People have heard about you all the way to from San Diego, I'm sure, across the United States, but in San Diego your name comes up very, very reputable.
Well, thank you. And I had the fortunate experience to be on a national television show about 10 years ago.
What was the name of that show?
It was ABC TV's Extreme Makeover.
That was with Chris Powell, the trainer?
I forgot the trainer's name, actually. There were a few. Chris Reed was one of them, and they did a wonderful job. The trainers were fantastic, as were the dietitians. But we did usually 1 or 2 major plastic surgeries on each of the patients. I think I operated on 27 patients, did about 40 surgeries on them. And it was remarkable. It was a remarkable experience for me and, of course, for all involved. The patients themselves would have never had the opportunity to work out and exercise, get their teeth fixed, have plastic surgery. They appreciated it and they gained a lot from it. Didn't have to pay for it, of course.
Wow.
And from my standpoint, it was very gratifying because I could also see, like the audience watching television, how it affected their lives, how it affected their family members. And it was a uniquely wonderful experience. And I'm proud to say the 27 patients, I think all of them were pleased and happy and got good results. I'm very proud of that record.
So how did they hear about you? How did they come to you? Because that's a I mean,
interesting.
other than your great reputation, because
You're kind.
well, I mean, that's probably a lot of it is, like you said, you don't advertise a lot, so it's word of mouth.
Right. It was a pilot TV show, and I watched it, and I thought it was remarkable, but I really was hesitant. I couldn't envision myself taking the place of the plastic surgeon who did it for a variety of reasons, one of which was my feeling that the National Society would probably frown on that type of publicity about plastic surgery. So about a month later, the producer, out of nowhere, I did not have a publicist, calls me and goes, "Would you be interested?" And I politely turned it down. I said, "Thank you, I appreciate that, but I don't think so." And he was shocked. To make a long story short, he convinced me that the society was standing behind the idea of the television show and that we should meet, and we did. And I selected 2 patients to do surgery on and got through with both of them. They both had lovely results. They were fine people. I was very satisfied, and I think, well, maybe that's it. My record is good. I'll quit with that. About 2 months later, the producer called me and said, "We've been picked up again. Would you do it?" And, well, to make a long story short, I did it for another 2 years. And I'm very grateful that I did. It was a wonderful life experience. I guess he found me through a former professor of mine at UCLA Medical Center, under whom I trained. And it was just pure luck, to be honest. So
You're very humble.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was luck, though, I guess.
You're very
It came out
reputable
well.
and you're very good at what you do, and I think you're a good person. You do a lot of good things, and I think it comes back.
Well, I hope so. I think karma is an important.
Oh, I think so
important
too.
thing.
I think so too. So tell me what a day in your life would be. What does Dr. Perlman do to get himself motivated for the day? What kind of lifestyle do you have?
Well, it's interesting. Probably different from what you expect. I get up about 10 to 6 every morning. After showering, I go down and prepare breakfast and lunch for my 5th grader, who's 11 years old. Get him ready for school and drop him off at school on my way to the office. That either allows me an extra hour or 2 of free time to go to the gym, or I come right over and we start surgery. So certain days we're in surgery all day, other days we're just seeing consults. I usually pick up my son in the late afternoon and go through the same routine for dinner time. I've really kind of changed my lifestyle since my little boy turned about 5, and focused mostly on him outside of my own professional work. When we see new consults, you never know what's going to come in, what's the next area of the body to discuss, and that makes it exciting because every day turns out to be different from the previous day.
Keeps everything fresh.
It does, and surgery, the same thing. Some of the procedures are very routine and repetitive, but others are unique, and you're designing from an aesthetic standpoint and putting procedures together, combining them. It's a wonderfully creative process. I really enjoy it.
So somebody's thinking about coming to you for surgery. What would you advise them to think about before they come in? What would be something good if you want to tell the audience?
That's a really good question. I think the audience has to realize that doctors have become marketers and promoters.
Right.
And we have to, because it's that kind of competition ever since the internet began. So it's part of the responsibility of the individual patient to do their research and get a sense of who the doctor is and what his or her reputation is. So nowadays, a lot of patients will go on the internet. They'll go on specific websites like RealSelf or probably others to do their research. And sometimes they get misinformation, admittedly. But I advise them to see at least 1, maybe 2 or 3 plastic surgeons, check their board certification. In my case, I'm certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery, member of the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery, and the American Society for Plastic Surgeons, which are the top-notch organizations in the country. And get a sense of the individual doctor. I mean, training's important, certifications are important, But is this a doctor who's going to be there for you, or are you going to be taken care of by a nurse or an assistant? If the price is right, or the price is very good, but it's a factory, is that really in your best interest? And I think asking around in the community to find out the doctor's reputation is important, but also having a real sense of trust when you've gone in for a consultation. I think it's also important for the patient to realize that they have to be realistic. They have to hear what the doctor's telling them. I find that patients dream of something that may or may not be achievable, and sometimes really don't want to hear something different. And even the morning of surgery, somebody will say, well, I'll look like this, right? And no, I've told you repeatedly that we can do this much, but we can't create miracles. So it's important for the patient to do their research, check the internet, review photos to get a good sense of what can be accomplished so that they're happy,
Right.
and that they're not disappointed with the results.
So do you go over clients that have had surgery and you show them photos?
When we have permission, I have a lot of permissions, we'll show them before and after photos, which I think can be very useful.
Because
We also image sometimes.
Right,
And, like
right.
for noses, it's helpful because I can image somebody's picture and go, this is a profile I'm thinking of. Do you like it? Would you like your nose a little concave or shorter or longer, or is this too much or too little? So we can set a target. It's not a guarantee, but it's a target that we can both agree on.
Right.
With breast surgery, I generally show pictures of other patients because I think that's more realistic than imaging would be. And I explain to my patients that during surgery, I will test different sized implants using sizers, so that there's an aesthetic sense from the plastic surgeon of what looks the best. We like to match the patient's goals of size and photographs, but I think pre-selecting a breast implant based on just measurements alone avoids or lacks the full aesthetic skill of the surgeon determined at the time of the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting process, and I like my patients to give me their confidence that I'm going to do the best job for them that I possibly can based on 35 years of experience.
Wow, 35 years.
Makes me feel old.
Time has gone by fast.
You were probably just a baby at that time.
Yes, right. So tell me, what do you specialize in with your surgeries? You mentioned, is it breast augmentation?
Well, I have never really selected just one procedure. So I'm a true plastic surgeon, and
So
now we
you-
do facial surgery,
Really?
noses, facelifts. I love doing facelifts and neck lifts, fat augmentation of the face, breast surgery, breast lifts, placement of implants, dealing with old breast implants that need to be changed, tummy tucks, liposuction,
Wow.
laser peels, a wide variety of procedures,
Very
which is what
impressive.
keeps me interested in
Yeah,
on top
it's-
of things.
It's like a buffet.
Yes,
Variety
it
of
is.
things
You
that-
have to avoid the buffet.
Yes, yes.
Too many calories.
We eat more vegetables than anything.
There you go. There you go.
Plants.
Indeed.
So you even work on this area here that sometimes changes as our bodies mature.
Oh, you bet.
Is it called the turkey neck, or what is it called?
It's a turkey neck or turkey gobbler when the skin really drops and the muscles drop. And sometimes it's surgery, sometimes it's a smaller surgery like liposuction.
Very interesting.
Fortunately, your neck is in pretty good shape.
Well, I need to drop a few pounds. We've been on a few vacations, and sometimes we eat things we're not supposed to.
I know how hard you guys work and travel all the time. So, what was it, a 4-hour drive just to get up here this morning?
Oh,
I appreciate that.
Well, no, we love seeing you, and it's always an honor to come. It doesn't seem like a long drive to see you.
You're very kind. Those are kind words.
Where do you see yourself going in the next year to 5 years with what you're doing?
It's interesting, you're always learning, and there are times we go to meetings, other times we just hit the journals and review and look for new procedures or little nuances in our procedure. So I'm always trying to improve my techniques and technology. We're always observing for technological changes, but one has to be careful not to be on the forefront of a device that may in time prove not to be safe or as beneficial as you
Right.
hope. So I kind of plan to stay the course, continue doing what I'm doing, and just continue to work on having a good reputation and satisfied patients and living a good life. I think I told you at a previous meeting, I became a vegan or a pesca vegan, fish and vegan a couple of years ago.
Right.
My own interest has expanded into healthy eating and healthy living and anti-aging.
It's very important for the skin, isn't it?
Well, it's the skin as well as the internals. So,
Right.
it's something that we're becoming increasingly aware of, and there's more scientific data available to help us make good decisions. I just posted on my Facebook page yesterday an article about reducing the risk of breast cancer through diet and lifestyle. And so this data wasn't available 20 years ago, not even 10 years ago. So there's so much more information, as well as misinformation coming out.
Sure.
That if you watch for scientific studies, there's a lot to learn, a lot to improve our lifestyles. And I feel that not just making people look beautiful, but making people healthier and making good, healthy choices in life is my obligation. Not smoking, for example, avoiding fatty foods, etc. So I don't want to overemphasize it, but if I can influence people to lead a healthy lifestyle, it's really satisfying to me to do that.
And you're doing that.
I am, but I have to be honest, my son eats a lot of pizza and macaroni and cheese. I'm failing, but he's only 11 years old, so
We're the same challenge.
Yeah, we'll work on changing that.
So, how have you felt different with your own health since you changed your eating style?
It's interesting. I did that about 15 years ago. I stopped eating red meat, but about 2 years ago, I tried to cut out all dairy, and with the exception of fish, I'm not eating any chicken or turkey. Lost a few pounds, maybe by stopping the sugar in my coffee, and no backache anymore. Feel good,
Really?
Feel fit. It really has made a difference, whether that's from simply weight loss or eating healthier foods and mostly vegetable-based diet. I don't know, but I certainly recommend it to others, and I'm very pleased with it.
So you're saying you lost a few pounds?
Probably lost about 5 or 6 pounds. Not that I intended to, but as a consequence of cutting back on sweets and sugars, and I don't eat any dessert anymore except occasionally some fruits.
So I wonder, by going cleaner in the way you're eating, if that had an effect maybe on less inflammation in your body that caused your back to hurt.
Well, they say that. It's quite possible. It could be that, or it just could be carrying less weight. I honestly don't know. But it's a striking change.
Very interesting.
My back in the last 2 years has been better than it's been for the previous 10 years.
I mean, you look very healthy. Your eyes look really clear. You look very young, very youthful.
Caught me on a good day.
You have a lot of those, I'm sure.
Thank you.
So let me ask you, what are you passionate about?
Well, number one, as being a parent, I'm very passionate about parenting because I was extremely close to my mom and especially my dad. And I've always tried to be as good or better a father to my kids as he was. Number two, I kind of enjoy getting the bicycle out on the beach in Santa Monica early mornings, sometimes with my son. Just makes you feel good. It makes you feel like there's a reason why we're here to enjoy a certain aspect of our life, and that gives me a lot of satisfaction. I also hop on I have a motorcycle, which sounds dangerous, I'll admit, but ride it some early morning weekends out in the hills, and I see places and enjoy nature in a way that I wouldn't otherwise be able to.
It's therapy for you, probably.
It really is. I used to ski and play tennis, but then a knee injury prevented that, so I looked for something else to replace it, and there's nothing like the exhilaration of being on Mulholland Highway and riding a sport bike. Yeah, it's good for the head. It's good for the head. One has to be careful because there are dangers involved, but I think the trade-off is worthwhile.
It is. So if there's people out there that want to contact you, what's your website they can go to and they can look at everything that you do?
Oh, how kind. My website is my last name, PERLMANMD.com. So it's www.perlmanmd.com. And we have a website. I originally made the first one back in the 90s, but it's become a little more complicated. So this one looks better, but it's my website. I'm very proud of it.
We look forward to possibly doing more interviews with you as things change and technology changes. I'm sure there's a lot you can teach us and our audience about what they can expect with overall health.
Well, Brett, it's really my pleasure. You're a great interviewer, you're a good friend, and you're a good quality gentleman. Thank you for your time.
We feel the same way about you, John.
Thank you so much.
One of the best. If you ever get a chance and you ever want to have some plastic surgery done and you want to not ever have to worry about what you're doing, you'll have total faith by putting your life in this gentleman's hands. Thanks for all for turning in today, and I appreciate it. Thank you.